Welcome to a very special edition of This Week in Missouri Politics. I actually took the week off and I'm fishing in beautiful Rockbridge, Missouri, one of the prettiest spots in all southern Missouri. But I wanted to give you a little sneak peek of what we do during the week. If you follow us on social media, you know I host a little update throughout the week. A lot of things happen in Missouri politics. So I have a show called This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update. Usually Tuesdays around noon I come. We have a guest sometimes. Sometimes I just talk about what's happening throughout the week. This week, busy week, chock full of news. The Commissioner of DESE resigned, so we had the Senate Majority Floor Leader, Cindy O'Loughlin. The Senators have been calling for that resignation for some time on the show. Conversation was so good and interesting, and the fishing here at Rockbridge is so pretty. I thought maybe what we do this week is I give you a little sneak peek of what we do every week. So enjoy this. I'll see you back in a minute. Remember, every midweek, about Tuesdays around noon, we do this. Thanks to our friends at United Electric Co-op up in Savannah and the Court by Marriott in Jeff City. We get to do this midweek update. Check this out. I'll see you in a few minutes. Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, the floor leader of the Missouri State Senate. Senator, welcome in.
Thanks for having me on.
So you've, I've told people before, is competition in the news business hard? I'm like, well, sometimes, but mostly just against your Facebook page is more interesting. Most of the stuff we can write. I've had a few opinions about the commissioner. I don't think today's news is something you were dreading. I'm not sure it wasn't something you've suggested might need to happen in the past. Now that the resignation is there, what does the state board need to look at going forward in finding a replacement?
Well, I think the reality is that our outcomes have been going downhill, certainly since COVID, but even before that. So the outcomes are not what we would want them to be. I think that some of our schools, maybe many of them, feel that they don't get the support that they need. And as you know, and I think probably everyone knows, I have strong thoughts about education because I think it's the foundation for success for everyone. And we have really an entire generation of people who are having difficulty reading and doing math. So to me, we need to move a different direction. I've been saying that now. This is my 5th year in the Senate, and I think I've said it ever since the 2nd year. And so I'm not really surprised that the commissioner resigned. I think that, she's had some health problems. Hopefully those are getting better. Maybe she's just looking to go, in a new direction. And I think Missouri needs to go in a new direction.
There's several spots on that State Board of Education that could be filled by Governor Parson. Those spots would have to be confirmed by the Missouri Senate that you're the floor leader of. What are some traits the governor should look towards in folks that would be good to sit on that board?
Well, one of my, I don't want to say complaints, maybe criticisms of government in general, is that they kind of operate in a little bubble where results aren't really how we measure what we're investing money in. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of holds true sometimes across all of our departments, certainly in education. We spend billions of dollars on education. I do believe, being on that state board, that people need to understand what is happening in schools. And I've never really been an advocate of appointing people to a board just so, they can say, look, I'm on the State Board of Education. It needs to be people that are engaged, understands how critical outcomes are, and that are willing to have an open mind, understand that competition is a part of life. And I think that has to be included. So I think there's a lot of things we need to look at.
I watched at Mizzou. It was the living definition of a dumpster fire. It had no leadership, completely rudderless. Then they came in and hired Dr. Choi. I'm no expert at colleges, but it feels like almost every possible metric of Mizzou is much better because of change of leadership. I look at these schools. You go to a place like Kennett, the superintendent's a great guy. The community surrounds behind him. The results are there. You look at a place like Poplar Bluff with a failing leader, just completely probably the bottom of the barrel, and the school suffers. It just seems like a lot of these come down to a common denominator of who's running the thing and who's in leadership. And there's a lot of other factors that matter, but I'm not sure anything matters more than getting a good person at the top.
I totally agree. And, I've mentioned that several times. And I think sometimes people say, well, whoever the commissioner is, really does not have a direct effect on the outcomes of schools. Well, if that's the case, we don't need a commissioner of education.
Well, I tell you, I've been a big defender of the current system, and I've listened to other people that I respect have criticisms. And at the end of the day, I think they were right. I think that, to me, just this is my simple hillbilly drinking on my stein of knowledge here, just a Southeast Missourian to a Northeast Missourian. I, it feels like the entire system is set up. You find the kind of the dumbest, most kind of backward, corrupt, and they all just cover each other's hind end in a big circle. No, it's nobody's fault. Oh, that's not what we do. No, we can't speak out on this. We can't do this. And it is just a system where the entire, literally thousands of people are in a system set up to cover up the dumbest and the most incompetent.
You know, some of my closest, I would call them advisors, have been superintendents. Senator Esslinger is one of those.
Sure.
Representative Brad Pollitt is one. Representative Paula Brown she hasn't been a superintendent, but she's been a teacher. Senator Lauren Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of those people have knowledge, and I do think you make a mistake if you don't try to have an open mind and listen to everybody. I always say I'm willing to listen to anyone, but the reality is that we are graduating kids who can't read and do math, and there's no excuse for that. So those schools who are run by superintendents who basically just want to wait their time out, and let's remember, they can retire pretty darned early.
Yeah.
If those schools want to have that kind of leadership, we need leadership at the top that says, no, that's not acceptable. We're going to go a different way. We're not going to have that.
And that's been the missing link, I think, is, if you walk over that DESE building and you have a legitimate problem, it's just like this. It's not me. I can't say, well, I would hurt this person's feelings. Well, I don't want to make this person mad. None of them can make a decision about anything except for the fact that move along, there's nothing to see here, everything's fine, and give me more money. That's it. That's the only thing they can agree on is more money, please. And I tell you, it's interesting. Do you have some folks in mind that you might suggest they should take a look at that job?
Yes. One of them would be Tiffany Anderson. She was a superintendent at the Jennings School District. I like her. She's very focused on result, and she doesn't use the 1,001 excuses for why kids can't achieve. And I think people need to understand that she took a school that is in one of the poorest neighborhoods in our state, with kids who, don't have the kind of support they need. And she figured out what needed to happen, and she made it happen. And I feel like that's the kind of person that we need. I think that she would be great. I also I hate to mention Doug Leibla's name here in a good way. No, not really. He's a friend of mine. He introduced me to Frank Killian. I like Frank a lot, just like Tiffany Anderson. He has operated several different sizes of schools, and his schools have achieved great things. So he also is focused on results, and
was he at Richland?
Yes.
Down Stoddard County. Yeah.
Yes. So, but he has also been a superintendent in bigger schools that were kind of on a failing trajectory. So it isn't like it can't be done. Excuse me. And it's not like we don't know people that can do it. We have people that have done it, and that's what we need.
If you look at, you've actually toured a lot of schools. That's one thing that some people don't know, is you've actually been to, I don't know how many schools, but I've seen photographs of you at least a dozen that I personally know of. What is the common denominator of something? You're a business person, right? If you went into DESE right now, what would be one of the one or two things you would do to say, okay, this is common sense, we need to do this?
Well, I think one of the things that I think could be changed, we have all of these different silos of people there. I'm not convinced that we need all of those silos of people. I know that they come up with the Missouri Learning Standards, and those things have multiplied from, I don't know where they started, but my goodness, it seems like there's a million of them now. So teachers who seem to be at the bottom of the list of importance, and they should be at the top, are being asked to teach all of these different things. And in the meantime, we lose sight of the things that are important. So I think that I would, look at each of those silos and say, is this really necessary? I would look at other states where education is producing a lot better outcomes. And there's no question I would downsize that department.
It's so interesting to me. I mean, you look at the things that schools have caught a lot of grief on, equity, inclusion day, or diversity day, or whatever. If you ask folks that make a living in that field, they'll tell you America is the most racist it's ever been, and on and on and on. So those things aren't working. But if you're at Columbia, you can't get in trouble for your diversity day if you don't have diversity day. If you just teach math that day, if you just teach math, you're probably going to avoid a bunch of these pitfalls.
So the diversity topic, years ago, I was on the school board here, and about the time they started talking about multiculturalism and people of different backgrounds. And at the time I said, I don't think that we should be going this route. I think that this is going to result in something we don't want. And the reason I say that is not that we can't appreciate people with differences. I mean, that's what makes a good idea great sometimes. It's that we have divided people and said, okay, if you're from this background, then you're in this little group. And if you're in this background, you're in another little group. And we're not all Americans, and we're not all trying to achieve the same goal. So we have, in the name of inclusion, promoted exclusion and created a lot of hard feelings between people. I would put an end to that.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the first part of our interview. While he's gone, look what I found. There's a whole big stock of these anytime you're here at Rockbridge, down in southern Missouri, beautiful Ozark County. Basically, once you get to 60, you're just now getting to the good part of Missouri. Go down a little bit further, you can find this beautiful place here in Ozark County. He ain't done fighting yet, is he? We'll be right back after this for part 2 of our conversation with Senator Cindy Olaf on our This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update. May have to wrestle me up a few more while we're going.
For more than a century, the St. Louis Carpenters Union has shaped our communities. Through trusted alliances, we deliver skilled professional craftspeople while our business partners provide the kind of quality jobs that keep our economy humming. It's a blueprint that has worked since 1882. Turning Missouri into a right-to-work state stalls progress, wipes out jobs, and kills momentum. Right to work is wrong for everyone. Let's keep Missouri moving forward. Visit carpdc.org to learn more.
Reach your audience with Outreach Studios. Studio 17 offers 1,000 square feet of customizable space that can accommodate roundtable discussions, podcasts, live stream content, and much more. For a different look, we offer View 17. This one-of-a-kind event center is fully wired for broadcast and is perfect for corporate or commercial content. With Outreach Studios, the opportunities are endless. Elevate your message, your brand, and your expectations with Outreach Studios.
Data captured by our state-of-the-art monitors helps us pinpoint the timing and location of severe weather more accurately and respond to trouble more quickly. Ameren Missouri's investment in smart technologies like this is one way we're improving reliability and restoring power faster than ever. Responding to trouble before trouble hits. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back. Again, I'll let you know what we're doing this week. Every week, about Tuesdays, about noon, sometimes Wednesdays, we do a This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, probably all sorts of other things I'm not even smart enough to know we're on that Kelton does. Midweek update. I'm in Rockbridge this week fishing, and I'm telling you, one of the absolute most beautiful places in this state, down in southern Missouri, Rockbridge Rainbow Trout Ranch. I highly recommend it. Come down. You have a great time. The best of rural Missouri down here. This week I wanted to give you a little sneak peek, though. Each week, we interview somebody. Sometimes we just sit and talk. I think Kelton and I started an illegal gambling circuit last week. So every week, if you look at our social media, Tuesday, Wednesday, we interview a state lawmaker, policymaker, or we just kind of sit and talk politics. I take your questions. I drink them. If you heard me say Stein of Knowledge, I drink from the Stein of Knowledge every week and give you kind of the inside scoop on Missouri politics and what's happening. I'm going to bring you now part 2 of our interview with Senator Cindy Olaf. We'll see you in a few minutes.
So let's talk about another issue you've shared your thoughts on. It's time of use electric billing. tell folks, just a person that pays an electric bill, but they're not a PSC energy policy expert. What is that time of use billing to start with?
Well, first of all, I think I need to say happy birthday to Scott Roop. I'm glad that his term has expired, but I know that he'll be moving on to something else. He's the chairman of the PSC.
Mm-hmm.
The time of use rates, in my opinion, and a lot of people agree with me, are designed around trying to promote you not using power when you most need it. So time of use rates from 4 to 8 p.m. At the lowest end were 4 times higher. And I think there were 4 different plans you could choose from. And at the high end were like 12 times higher. So this penalizes people when they're trying to run their household and do the things they need to do. And I'm very opposed to that. And if you look around the country, I think there are 2 states that have passed that. Others have tried, and the public doesn't want it. And why would they? We're already having a hard time with all of the inflationary pressures that we have. Why in the world would we now gouge all of our customers? And, I understand that they would like to transfer that over to the commercial side. This, of course, would increase people's costs to where maybe they decide they'll do business somewhere else. So the whole idea is terrible.
I've watched this. There is a movement to do this in other states, mostly, I think, probably more liberal states. But it just, to me, the way to convince people to do stuff, it's very heavy-handed. If you gave folks the option that you want your electric billed this way, well, you know what? It might work for some folks. And if I was drinking out of my stein of knowledge somewhere, let's say I was up at Lucky's, up in Edina, and we was having lunch, and I was like, I saved $100 this last month on my energy bill because I checked this box. Well, you'd probably do it too because it would save you $100. But if I checked the box and it cost me an extra $50, I'm probably not going to do that. And to me, if it's such a great idea and it's going to save folks all this money, I promise you, Missourians are frugal. If you find a way they can save money at something, you ain't going to have to force them. They'll do it on their own.
The argument that I tried to make in the beginning was, look, if this is such a wonderful idea, then offer it, but let people opt in. But no, Scott's idea is it's a wonderful idea and everyone's going to love it. And that's why we're going to force you into it. And you can't.
It's got a European feel to it.
Yes.
It just kind of, in America, it just is counterintuitive to the American spirit. It's just kind of more European. I would tell Flat Doug that too. It just seems like it's just, there's something about it where we don't restrict, we expand.
Yes,
but in this case, it's kind of that European mindset,
We've kind of taken what I consider to be the greatest country on earth with great possibilities for people that want to work hard and be responsible for themselves. And we all of a sudden not all of a sudden, it's kind of come on for a long time, but we're turning our focus to, everyone that's living the kind of a lifestyle that makes sure that you can't really achieve what you'd like to. In other words, we don't talk about success. All we talk about is loss. And we need to turn that dynamic around.
So, it's tough to pass any bill through the Missouri Senate, as it should be. It's good for the folks that it's tough. Can you legislatively turn this around if the PSC doesn't roll this back?
Well, it has been rolled back. Now, what the thing that happened was the Office of Public Counsel, which is a group of lawyers who advise the commissioners, they themselves decided to file an appeal. And my understanding is that the commissioners will vote whether to accept or reject that. And then I think the next step is for it to go to a court of appeals if this little group decides to push it further. So, our attention is not only on the commissioners, but it's also on people who are unaccountable. And I think this OPC group is unaccountable. So there needs to be a way to bring them to account so that they are doing really what they're supposed to be doing. And, we sit around and think of ways to do that.
You know, an old boy from Greene County that helps put that budget together. He might have some thoughts on how to make them accountable.
Yes.
He might get a few more gray hairs and that whiskers and that beard of his coming up with sharpening that pencil on that. I'm sure somebody will want that money. Speaking of, let's talk a little politics. Governor's race feels like it's heating up. Now they're out hollering at each other at events. It's kind of getting fun. You got a favorite in that governor's race yet?
Well, all of them have good ideas. And I think the deciding factor has to be, you can say, boy, I have a great idea, but I'd like to know what is your strategy to achieve that. And we'll see who produces a strategy that really can achieve what they say they want to do. It's easy to, identify what people want to have happen.
Sure.
But the difficulty lies in making it happen. So we'll see.
Everybody wants to own a business and wants to hire folks until it's time to make payroll. Then
right.
Rubber starts meeting the road.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm sure there's 33 other people that would like to take your job. If you move up to pro tem, what's that field look like? What does it take? I don't think this is just shiny. I think objectively, folks notice a difference in the state Senate. Now you could point to whatever reasons, but the person in the chair gets credit. There was a difference in the state Senate. What is some qualities you might suggest to your fellow senators to look for in selecting a new floor leader if you move up to the pro tem's job?
It's all about relationship. And we live in a time where everybody wants to, not everybody, but a lot of people want to throw bombs at the opposing side, and then that side throws bombs back. And I guess on my part, I have strong convictions about things. You have to decide what you can compromise on and what you can't. You also have to decide what you can realistically achieve. So I try to stay connected to each senator. I think a lot of them have ideas of moving up. I'm all for them. We actually do work hard, even though I know on the outside it doesn't appear that we do. And I think the biggest thing is you have to listen to people. You have to promote cordial relationships between senators. And in general, just try to keep the train on the track. And if you do that and you have some structure, then I think it can be done. Now, next year will be challenging. We have a lot of people running for higher office, and some of them like to talk a lot and get free ads on TV. And this can be kind of, I don't know, it tries the patience of a lot of people in there.
Are you saying you're not Darth Vader?
Right. I've already met with Darth too.
How it just feels in my gut. I get to sit up in the popcorn gallery and watch y'all all day, sometimes all night. It feels like session will be largely determined on your relationship with Senator Eichel. He's running for governor. He's the unofficial leader of a coalition of senators. He's very good very sharp on the floor. He will go to the floor and fight. It just kind of feels like the relationship you have with him and he has with you will probably define what gets done next year. Am I wrong?
No. I mean, we have kind of a like each other, hate each other relationship, but we don't let that hang on, So if there's a disagreement, which there's a lot of those, I don't sit around for the next 10 days and think about that. Each episode that we have is sort of confined to that one thing. And in my conversations with him and with the rest of the senators, I've said, look, let's think about the things that you want to get done. Let's think about the things that the rest of the people want to get done. There's a lot of overlap, and let's find a way to do that. And I think the way to do that is to not spend a lot of time on the floor, burning time talking. So you be honest with me, I'll be honest with you. And it's going to take a lot of patience.
It does feel like you start off with a lot of credibility with him. I think the 4 years before, leadership had just, the fights had just, it had worn things just raw. But it does feel like there's some credibility you have with him, and maybe he has with you.
Well, I mean, I made a few mistakes when I started as the floor leader, and, I had to apologize to some people. And I think sometimes for senators that's hard, but it doesn't bother me. They're all smart people, and I try to assure them that if I tell them something, you can count on that. If something were to change that, I'm going to come right back to you and tell you, so people know what they can depend on, and that's very important.
Well, Senator, we just got tired of waiting on sports betting, Kelton and I. So we've started on illegal sports book. I think last time Mizzou covered, so we won. Who did we have on with us last week, Kelton? The played us about Frank. He was part of the Young Republican event. He came and told us all about that, which is fun to hear about. So we have Mizzou -7 against South Carolina. You want in on it?
I'm not a gambler, so I hope Mizzou
we probably
wins.
aren't be either, but all right. Well, I'm gonna take Mizzou and give the points. Kelton, where are you at?
I'm going to take Mizzou.
Kelton's a homer. He's kind of a suck up. Yeah, Senator, we appreciate the time. It'll be very interesting to see. It feels like the time is right, not just at Desi. I think the time is right in Missourians' homes for a real conversation about what they want their schools to look like and what they want education to be. And it does feel like it's one of those things when you call for somebody to leave and now they're leaving. I do think the ball gets passed to you as far as, okay, you said some changes. Now, what do they look like? It's like you said, everybody knows what they want to see. How do you get there? As that unfolds, hope you'll come back and visit us here on This Week in Missouri Politics.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the future of education.
Well, hope you enjoyed our conversation with Senator Cindy O'Loughlin, the Senate Majority Floor Leader. She's from Chelpina, Missouri, and as you could tell, she says it like it is. The great thing about Senator O'Loughlin, if you see her at the coffee shop, restaurant, Senate floor, hallway, her office, on television, she's the exact same person. She's going to give you the straight shot, whether you like it or not. She's going to tell you what she thinks. Thank you, Senator, for being our guest this week on the Midweek Update. It was so good, I thought I'd play it this week for all of you on This Week in Missouri Politics, our regular TV show. You can catch again in the middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday sometimes. Go on our social media. You can watch it live. You can send me questions or topics. If you want to, you can send me a stein to add to the collection. If you're ever in Jeff City, come look. So many of you all have been so kind, and we've got about 500 beer steins now that you've been nice enough to send me throughout the years. We'll be back next week at our Jeff City studios for This Week in Missouri Politics. I want to thank all the folks at Rockbridge, the hands-down prettiest place in the state of Missouri. Make your plans. Get down here. Enjoy rural Missouri. I have to thank the absolute best-looking fisherman assistant and camerawoman today for helping me. And we'll see you next week back in the studio for This Week in Missouri Politics.
This Week in Missouri Politics is sponsored by the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, Ameren, Spire, and the United Electric Cooperative.
I'm a history buff, like I know a lot of you are if you watch the show. We're doing a thing of the history of Missouri. We're going to do it one county at a time. We call it Show Me Missouri. We're going to travel to all 114 counties of the state. We'll have a member of the Farm Bureau, county elected officials, some of your state legislators you see here on the show. We're going to talk about the history, what's happening now in the county, and how the two are interconnected. It's a passion project of mine. If you like history, I hope you'll get involved. Follow us. Go to MissouriTimes.com. You can see it. We'll probably branch it off into its own social media at some point. But you've been so good to us at the Missouri Times, the show, different papers. This is a passion project that I hope you'll enjoy. It's called Show Me Missouri. The history of Missouri, one county at a time. The first county was Polk County. We had a great time. And we hope you'll go to MissouriTimes.com, find a little bit about it. And if you like the history of the state, I hope you'll enjoy it.